my name is Nancy and I'm a teacher in the state of Arizona. This is my second video here on YouTube. If you are new, if this is the first video that you're coming across, I'm going to link down below the first video that I did just so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. And please make sure to subscribe so that you can see more videos coming from me. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 5 struggles of teaching online. Let's backtrack a little bit to March. I still remember March 13th, that was our last day in the actual classroom. And I remember just saying goodbye to my students that Friday, and I never thought that that was the last time that I was going to see them in person there in our classroom. This whole teaching online concept is something that was just thrown at all teachers out of nowhere. And what did we do? I think we conquered it because it's something that had never been done before. It's something that no one was expecting. There was just no way that administration or teachers or parents or students or whoever could imagine that it was ever going to happen. Struggle number 1 was student access to the essentials. Now, what I mean with this is that not all students had access to a device, either an iPad, tablet, computer, or whatever it is, to any device so that they could do their work, so that they could stay connected. Not all students had that. I know that a lot of students in different school districts, in different cities, in different states, were lent a device so that they could stay connected and learn through there. The district that I was teaching at didn't do that, and I totally understand them because lending out your devices is not something that you're prepared for. I think that, I would assume that the district would make the parents sign a type of contract stating that if anything happens to that device, that they were going to be held accountable for it and they would have to pay it or something, because if not, then that's an iPad that you're out of or a device that you're out of, and you will need them for years to come. So I totally understand the district not wanting to lend out their devices because at that point they were not ready. Through ClassDojo, my students' parents reached out to me. They told me that they were not being able to do the homework because they didn't have devices. But you know what? This is the part that I don't know. I was very proud of them. They were being proactive because they told me that they went to a neighbor so that they could share, to see if that neighbor would share a device with them. So basically they went to get it borrowed from someone. And next day the mom messages me and she tells me, okay, what do I need to do? And of course, I helped her step by step of everything that she needed to do. But I was very proud because there were some parents going above and beyond, going to a neighbor or to a relative or to someone so that they could borrow a device. And on the other hand, we had some parents that were just putting up with excuses. So that was one of the biggest struggles. Students not having a device, not having internet, and not being able to simply stay connected and to continue with their learning. Struggle number 2 was accessing classwork. I made some videos, some tutorials on ClassDojo, which is the app that I use to communicate with my students' parents. I did some tutorials there to show the parents step by step where they needed to click, where to access different things, the passwords, everything. I just wanted to show them step by step so that they wouldn't be confused. For some reason or another, even though I made those videos for the parents, they were not understanding it, or I don't know if I was not being clear or if they felt overwhelmed with everything. Students were doing, for example, the protocol per se that I was following was we were just sticking to teaching reading, writing, and math. And we forgot about, well, it's not that we forgot about them, but we wanted to focus on those 3 subjects because we felt that those were the most, and when I say we, I am talking about the team. We felt that those were the subjects that we needed to focus so that when students could come back in August, they at least retained everything that they had learned up to that point of the school year. So we wanted to have strong fundamental skills in reading, writing, and math, and just simply maintain everything that we learned throughout the school year. And what I found was that some students were doing their work, for example, for reading and math, but they were not doing their work for writing. So I don't know if that's something that also happened to you. Leave me down below in the comments how it is that your school, first of all, if your school did everything like as a whole, or if you had to do your own thing, and what subjects students were completing and what subjects they weren't. I'm very interested in knowing that. Now, struggle number 3 was the lack of parent support. I feel like my class, well, and I can obviously only speak from my experience, but my group of students was like very divided. I had some parents, like the half of my parents, going above and beyond for their children. I had a mom who was pregnant, who gave birth during the whole pandemic, and who still, even though it was late, because she would like tell me like, I'm turning this late because we were doing this and that, but she let me know what her situation was, and I told her like, it's okay, as long as you're turning in the work, like, thank you. So I had parents like her who gave birth, who had to take care of a newborn, who was still on top of her child's education. And like I said before, the moms that went to borrow some devices from neighbors. You know, like I had some parents going above and beyond for their children and their education. And on the other hand, I had some parents who told me that they couldn't help their child because they had to work and they come home at a certain hour, when in reality there were certain, like the way that we organized it was so that students could access their learning at whatever time was more convenient to them. I would have loved to see a little bit more support from the parents. The lack of parent support was one of the biggest struggles. Struggle number 4 was accountability. Now, I know that this can be because teaching online just happened out of nowhere, and now these are things that we can start considering for next year. But I feel like students were not held accountable for their learning, and parents were not held accountable for their learning either. I remember I would do Zoom meetings with my students once a week, and I would usually have them on Wednesdays, and I would do them at 6 p.m. because I was being flexible with the parents that work, so that way, like, I phone called everyone, and I came up with doing it on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. because that was the time that most of the students could connect. So with accountability, I think that parents thought that everyone was just going to get by. So parents were not expecting grades, they were not expecting progress reports, and they were not expecting report cards. As we started getting closer towards the end of the school year, like in, I would say, May or late April, we were notified that yes, we needed to do progress reports and report cards and everything. So I remember filling out my progress reports, and there were like 3 categories, just like if the student is completing the work, if they're completing half of the work, if they're not completing it at all, or if they don't have a device at home. Those were the options that you could choose from. But I remember from that point on, some of the parents were a little bit more, how can I say it? Were a little bit more engaged in their child's learning because they thought like, oh, this will affect them. Like at the beginning, and if you're a teacher, you know that at the beginning, some of the parents took this as a vacation because we didn't know how serious it was and we didn't know what to expect from it. So I think that accountability was a huge one. Struggle number 5 is student engagement and motivation. Now, with the little ones, it was so hard to keep them engaged, to have them sitting down in front of a computer paying attention to you a whole hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours, however long it is that you taught with them. Comment down below how many hours, if you Zoomed with your class, and how many hours or how long you did it for. I'm interested in knowing that because lower grade students, first graders, like after an hour they were gone, and some of them even before that. So it was very hard to keep them engaged and to keep them motivated. I had one of my student's parents, she told me that the student asked if we were going back to school because he said like, oh, if we're not going back to school, then why should I do the work? You know, so it got to the point where they were also like mentally done. They were like, oh, I'm not going to see my teacher anymore. I'm not going to see my classmates anymore. Yes, we were seeing each other through a computer, but also going back to accountability, that student or those students who felt that way were not feeling that they were accountable for completing their work. And you know what? I have the next video that I want to do are top 5 tips for teaching online. So because I had these situations happen, I had to think like, okay, what can I do? How can I get these students to feel more engaged, to feel more motivated, and to feel that they are held accountable, because this is not going to work if we keep it up like this. Keep out an eye for that. I have a video coming on the top 5 tips, but for right now, those are the top 5 struggles that I had while teaching online. Please go ahead and comment down below what was your biggest struggle. And also remember, this is so that we can reflect on what it is that we did in the past and how we can make it better for this upcoming school year. So with this information that I know some of the changes that I need to start doing and to start researching and to start planning so that next year can be better. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you next time.